they call key work clothes. And the thing about the key work clothes is the farmers liked them because a lot of times they'd snag their clothes on a nail and it'd rip a big triangle in their jeans. Well, if they had key work clothes and it got snagged, it would just make a little hole. And,
Really?
And they had a special herringbone weave. So
Really? Wow.
he sold a lot of key work
Interesting.
clothes to the farmers and Wolverine shoes
Right.
because they wore like iron.
Okay.
And they
So
are.
it was a lot of ready-made clothes then.
And
Did they also sell fabric,
Oh,
yardage?
he sold, it was one of the best fabric stores around because, and he had the best selections for thread. And a lot of women would come in from all around,
Really?
especially the Amish women that
Oh, I
made a lot
bet.
of clothes. They would
Yeah.
come in and shop for fabric
Yeah.
and their threads. And he kept a lot of zippers and accessories that you needed
Anything you
to
would.
build.
Did he also sell sewing machines?
No.
No.
No, he
Okay.
didn't. He didn't go into the sewing machine business. He sold some cosmetics, basic cosmetics, that, hand lotions and fingernail polish
Right.
and things like that.
But, no groceries of any kind?
No,
Okay.
that was all left across the street. Ansel Valley had that, and
Yeah.
then he sold it. I'm not sure. I think he might have sold it to Wayne Zaring, and then Ansel went into the banking business after
That's
that.
right, yeah.
And
But
so
your dad and Earl had it at the same time?
they were partners
Partners
together
for the
together
dry
with the
goods.
dry goods store and the grocery. And so my dad, he wanted to get away from groceries, and so he took the
Oh.
dry goods part
I see.
over across the street and
Okay,
had the building built that's currently there.
okay, well, interesting.
So,
So how many generations and had the dry goods store?
well,
Your dad
just,
started it?
just my dad, I think from 1947 or 48 to probably 61 or 2. I don't have those dates in my head,
Okay,
but I remember when he sold out and he had a fella come in
Yeah.
from Richmond, Indiana, and he did all the publicity and everything to sell
Really?
out.
wow,
And,
interesting.
So he did that.
Now, do you know when your family first came to the Burlington area?
No, I don't.
Okay, all right.
I don't. I know. Well, it was before both of my parents were born. So,
Okay,
and then my grandfather was a brick mason, and he built the current boathouse
where the dock is now,
where the
the
dock
restaurant?
is.
You talking about Leander?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And my uncle George, his second oldest son, he worked. They worked together and built that
They
building.
built that building.
Right.
It's still there.
Right, and then of course you've already probably had stories about the upstairs in the building that was the Opera House, and then the Burlington Polar Cubs played
The Polar-
basketball
yes.
games in there and
Yes.
things like that. So
Yes.
I don't need to go into detail because
So you probably attended ball games up there?
no,
No?
that was they'd already built the high school or the grade
Oh, that's
school
right,
and the
because you
high
went to
school.
school, yeah. And they had a gym there, didn't they?
Right, they had a
Finally.
gym there. And so we'd already transferred all that. I don't know what year they built the gym, but
I haven't gotten that date from anybody else either. One of the stories we heard was that the first time Logansport came and played here, they didn't have any heat upstairs over the restaurant where the gym was, and
yeah,
it was cold.
yeah.
And the one Logansport player said to another, said, "Who we playing here tonight? The Polar Bears?" And they say that's how they got their name of the Polar Cup.
Oh, well, that could be. Yeah.
Had you
I
heard
think
that?
there was a big heater on each corner, on two corners, and they'd have timeouts, and they'd go warm their hands and get warmed up, and then take off and play
Play again.
ball again.
It was cold up there, wasn't it? Okay. So your family didn't own any property back in the, like the 1700s or anything like that, or 1800s?
No, well,
Here.
my grandfather Huffer owned a farm.
Okay,
He owned farm
they had-
ground, southwest of Burlington.
Is that where Marion is now?
No, no.
Oh.
It's on west where Howard Eaglehoff is. That was my grandfather's home place.
Okay, is where Eagle Hawk is now.
Right, right.
Okay, Eagle Hawk.
Yeah. See, Marion is like a second or third cousin.
Okay, okay. How about community involvement? Was your family, did they participate in churches anywhere or
Well,
any kind of clubs or anything?
The Huffers and us, we went to the First Brethren Church in Burlington,
The
here
First
in
Brethren.
Burlington, and then as far as community organizations, they're used when they were businesses here. That they had a merchants organization. My dad belonged to that. Plus,
Oh, yes, he would have.
I believe, I think Don Bigler's house burnt down, and I don't know the year. But right after that, they started the Burlington Fire Department.
Oh, really?
And my dad was a charter member of the Burlington
He
Fire
was, he was
Department.
a charter member of the Burlington Fire Department. Well, bless his heart, thank you.
And he and they stored the fire truck in the shop of the Burlington High School. And I can remember.
Oh, really?
I can
Before they
remember.
had their.
I can remember that. The calls would come in over the old crank phones, and
Mhm.
my dad would take off running across the schoolyard to the fire truck, and
Mhm.
and at that time they only had the one truck, and
Well,
and then so
and where did you live at that time?
I lived right across from the school.
Across from the school? Okay.
Yeah.
Where Mark Miller lives.
And then-
Okay.
Fire chief.
Yeah,
The fire
yeah, the
chief,
fire chief lives
Yeah.
there, and then Lance lived 2 doors north.
Yeah.
So
And,
where did they keep the fire truck?
They kept it in the
In
shop building,
the
or
shop
or
building,
the
the
shop
school.
entrance to the,
Yeah.
down in
and
the shop on the south end of the
South end,
school.
yeah.
Well,
They kept the fire truck there until they got a building behind the pizza store
oh,
here.
okay.
Behind where
Oh, yeah.
I'm trying to think what's
no,
behind there now.
Just
I'm having
a
trouble
bar.
with names. Where Wilma Brubaker lived, the
Yeah.
little house on the corner. There was a
22.
building, a block building just south of there, and that's where the fire trucks were stored until probably 1962 or 3 when they built the current fire station.
Okay, so the early 60s when they built the current.
Yes.
About the American house, this house here, do you remember the people who lived here? The Rhines and
The only ones
Smokers?
I remember that lived here were named Rhine.
Yes.
The Rhines. That's the only ones I know.
Well, one day when we were here working, one of the Rhine boys, he in his 40s, I suppose, came and asked if he could come in and look around because he said he used to spend the summers here at his grandmother's.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Sure, that's true.
do you remember what her name was? Something
No.
Rhine. Okay.
If I heard it, I could say it, tell
Yeah.
you, but I can't recall it.
Okay. What
Was it
about
Mary
Chick?
Smoker?
It was Mary, yeah. Mary Smoker.
It was her maiden name was Smoker.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Mary Ryan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's true. And then, of course, boy, if you could go back
To
to
the Smoker.
Kate Smoker,
Yeah.
And
I can tell you stories about Kate Smoker.
Well, we like to hear those too.
Oh,
We've heard some, but
She
Can
lived.
you repeat him?
She lived where.
yeah, the ones that are repeatable.
Yeah, she lived where Scoops are right now.
Yes,
And
yes.
And of course, when she taught school and she taught college, but when she went to teach college and school, she dressed up. She was dressed up really nice. But then she also farmed, and she put she just put clothes on. It didn't matter if they matched or anything, and you know,
Right.
sometimes her pant legs was up and her socks was all rolled up around her ankles, and I remember one day she put, when I was at my dad's store, there used to be a laundromat right beside it. So Kate loaded her clothes up in a basket and drove across the road to the laundromat. And she washed her clothes and not putting them inside where they wouldn't fall off. She just put them on the fender. And she drove an old stick shift car, and she was backing across the street, and you know, the stick shift cars, they kind of cough and chug. Well, it did that, and her clothes fell off right in the middle of the intersection. And she had traffic backed up picking those clothes
Oh,
up.
man. Oh, man. Oh,
You
my.
wouldn't believe it. So that's one of those really funny stories, but you know,
Oh, that would have got repeated a lot.
Kate was,
Did you know her dad? Was he still living when you were,
I don't remember
the doctor,
him,
Dr.
no.
Chick?
I may have known him, but I don't remember.
Okay, okay. And then what about Chick Smoker?
Oh, I remember Chick Smoker. Yeah, Chick. He worked for Johnny Barber and Raymond Barber's in the poultry business.
Oh,
And when I was in high school, 3 years I was in high school, I worked for Joe Garrison. And Joe Garrison had the dairy farm, and he raised chickens. And so we milked about 50 head of cows,
wow.
morning and evening.
Wow. Mhm.
And I think during my senior year, I'd go out and help milk before school, and then I would go out after school.
Wow.
And then my responsibilities was to feed the 5,000 chickens and gather the eggs and take them into the house. And then after I got that done,
5,000
start the milking.
Wow.
Yeah. And
I can't imagine 5,000 chickens gathering that many.
I had them in 3 different places, and so I'd carry 4 or 5 gallon buckets of feed through the chicken house and scattered out really to feed them. And one of the stories about working for Joe Garrison is really, really funny. Is because in the springtime, Joe and I would go out and we'd be working in the field, and his wife Phyllis would start the milking, and she'd get the cows in. And so Joe got a new bull, and so he normally kept a bull in a bull pen, so it was separate from the cows. And when the cows would come in heat, why then we'd turn them into the bull, and they'd do his business. And so with the new bull out with the cows, why Phyllis went out to get the cows in, and she'd come in one night, and we'd come in she'd start the milking, but Joe and I'd come finish it. And she told Joe, she says, "Hey, we got to put that bull up. He chased me tonight, and I'm scared of him." So he said, "Oh, that bull won't hurt you. He's harmless." So about a week later, why then it's my turn to go out and get the cows in, and so I went out, and that bull chased me, and I run up in the silo to get away from him.
Yeah.
And I told Joe, I said, Phyllis is right, maybe we better put that bull up. He said, "Oh, he's harmless, he won't hurt anybody." Well, a week or so later, Joe went out to get the cows in, and Joe come in, and he says, "Hey, we got to put that bull up. He chased me tonight. It's time to put the bull up." So anyway, that's a funny story of when I was working for Joe Garrison. I remember that.
Yeah,
That's,
I bet you do.
pretty vivid. And that's been 50 years ago.
Yeah, right.
Some of those
One of
stories.
those memories you don't lose. Yeah. Interesting. Well, you had one of my questions was other jobs, and that's a job.
That was-
that many chickens and that.
I was one of the kids in school along with Lance. Now Lance worked at IGA, and he worked for Wayne Ryan and Larry Waddell, and we had money. Not a lot of money, but money to do a few
Right.
things. So
Yeah.
we were able to go out and spend money in the evenings and
Yeah,
go to
right.
different places,
Yeah,
but,
had a little extra.